The smell of burnt dung and cold stone fills my nose before I even open my eyes. It is the universal scent of the Silk Road, the smell that binds Hangzhou to Venice. But here in the high, dry air of Samarkand, it has a sharper, metallic edge. My breath creates a small cloud of fog that hangs for a moment in the stagnant air of the Hujra, the small stone cell I rented for the night. The floor beneath me is hard, packed earth covered only by a thin, beaten rush mat and my own felt rug. I lie still for a moment, listening to the beast waking up below. The Caravanserai is a 2-story square of brick and mortar, a fortress of commerce, and the courtyard beneath my window is already alive. I hear the guttural, wet complaint of a Bactrian camel, the clatter of wood against stone, and the low murmur of a dozen languages: Sogdian, Persian, Turkic, and the rough dialect of the Mongol drivers. I push the heavy sheepskin coat off my chest. The cold rushes in immediately, seizing my skin. It is early autumn, and while the days in Transoxiana burn with a golden intensity, the nights carry the chill of the coming winter from the steppe. My joints protest as I sit up. 3 months on the road from Kashgar has worked a deep, permanent ache into my lower back and hips. I rub the sleep from my eyes with the heel of my hand, feeling the grit of dust that never truly leaves the skin. There is no sunlight yet, only a gray, watery illumination leaking through the arched doorway of my cell. The only furniture is a low wooden stool and the saddlebags I use as a pillow. I reach for the small clay lamp in the niche of the wall, but I do not light it. Oil costs copper, and the gray light is enough. Hygiene is the first order of business, a ritual to separate the civilized man from the nomad. I move to the corner of the cell where my brass ewer sits. The water inside is freezing. I pour a small amount into the copper basin. I do not splash it. Water is too precious to waste on theater. I dip my hands, gasping softly at the temperature, and rub the water over my face, scrubbing at the crust of salt and sand in my beard. I use a small piece of rough linen to dry my skin. The fabric is coarse, woven in a village 300 miles east, and it scrapes my skin pink. Next, I take a miswak stick from my sash. The end is frayed into a fibrous brush. I chew it slowly, working the bristles against my teeth and gums. The taste is bitter, gingery, and medicinal, but it cuts through the stale taste of sleep. I run a wooden comb through my beard. It is a good comb, made of apricot wood, purchased in the market here 2 days ago. I untangle the knots carefully. A merchant's face is his bond. An unkempt beard suggests a chaotic ledger. Dressing is a process of construction. I am already wearing my undergarments, as it is too cold to sleep naked. My purahan, the undershirt, is undyed cotton, now gray with wear. It hangs to my knees. Over my legs, I wear the surjama, white cotton drawers that draw tight at the waist with a cord. Now the layers of public life. I pull on my shalwar trousers. They are voluminous, made of a striped wool blend that gathers broadly at the hips and tapers sharply at the ankles. I stand up to fasten them, the heavy fabric rustling. Next comes the kaba, my tunic. It is a deep indigo, dyed with the very cakes of pigment I sold in Bukhara last year. It overlaps across my chest and fastens on the right side. The fabric is sturdy, a tight weave meant to deflect wind and dust. I sit on the stool to address my feet. This is the most critical part of the dressing. A merchant walks as much as he rides. I pull on thick felt socks, shaping them around my heels. Over these, I slide my feet into the inner boots, the mossy. These are soft, pliable leather, almost like slippers. Finally, I jam my feet into the chakme, the tall, hard leather riding boots with the curled toes. I stomp my heels against the floor to settle them. I stand and reach for my sash, the camera band. This is not merely decoration. It is my pocket, my safe, and my tool belt. It is a long strip of saffron-colored silk. I wind it around my waist 4 times, pulling it tight enough to support my back, but loose enough to breathe. Inside the folds, I tuck a small leather pouch containing my silver dirhams, a small knife with a bone handle, and my personal seal ring. Finally, the turban. I place the skull cap, the kala, on my head. It is embroidered with geometric patterns. I take the long length of white cotton cloth and begin to wind. It is a muscle memory, wrapping the fabric around the cap, tucking the end securely. The weight of it on my head feels like armor. I throw my heavy wool chapin coat over my shoulders, leaving the long sleeves dangling empty for now, cloak style. I am ready. I step out of the cell onto the gallery walkway. The air here is thick with smoke. Below, in the vast square courtyard, 100 fires are burning. The Caravanserai is a hive. In the center, the great stone platform is crowded with bales of merchandise. Around the perimeter, under the arches of the ground floor stables, the animals are being fed. The smell is overwhelming: wet straw, camel urine, roasting meat, and the pungent, musky aroma of burning dry dung cakes. I walk along the gallery, my boots clicking on the stone, nodding to a fellow merchant from Herat who is leaning over the railing, cleaning his nails with a dagger. We do not speak. The morning is too young for pleasantries. I descend the narrow stone staircase to the courtyard. The noise hits me fully now. A donkey brays, a jagged, sawing sound that cuts through the low roar of conversation. Porters, stripped to the waist despite the chill, are already hauling sacks of grain, their skin shining with sweat and grease. I make my way to the communal cooking fire near the southern gate. The caravan cook, a squinting man with a scar running through his left eyebrow, is stirring a massive iron cauldron. Breakfast is fuel, nothing more. I hand him my wooden bowl. He ladles out a portion of sherpa, a thick, fatty broth made from mutton bones and chickpeas. It has been simmering all night. Into this, I tear pieces of naan, the flat, round bread of the city. The bread is 2 days old and hard as roof tile, but the hot broth softens it into a savory mush. I find a spot on a wooden bench near the fire. I sit next to Yusuf, a trader in paper and spices. He is dipping a piece of dried apricot into a cup of steaming green tea. The tea is a brick tea, boiled with a pinch of salt and a dollop of yak butter. The broth is hot and greasy, coating my mouth with the taste of sheep fat and cumin. It warms me from the inside out. I eat quickly, using my fingers to scoop the soaked bread into my mouth. The market gates open in 1 hour, Yusuf says, staring into his tea. I nod, chewing a piece of gristle. I have 6 bales of raw silk to move, I reply, and I need to find a buyer for the indigo before the tax collector assesses it again. We eat in silence for a few minutes. The food settles heavy in my stomach, a necessary ballast for the day. I finish the broth and wipe the bowl clean with a final crust of bread. I drink a bowl of the salted tea. It is scalded and bitter, but the salt replaces what I sweated out yesterday, and the heat wakes my blood. I stand up, brushing crumbs from my beard. It is time to work. I walk toward the eastern arcade of the courtyard, where my goods are stored. The ground is a slurry of mud and straw. I step carefully. A string of camels is being led out through the main gate, their massive padded feet making soft, squelching sounds. They are loaded high with carpets, swaying rhythmically, heading west toward Merv. I watch them go, feeling a pang of jealousy. They are moving. I am stuck here until I sell. My storage niche is a recessed archway protected by a heavy wooden lattice. I unlock the iron padlock with a heavy key from my sash. The smell of my inventory greets me. It is a dry, dusty smell of raw silk and the sharp, chemical tang of indigo. My assistant Batu is already there. He is a young boy, perhaps 14, hired locally. He is sleeping on top of the bales, wrapped in a goat hair blanket. I kick the sole of his foot gently. Up, Batu. The sun is hitting the walls. He scrambles up, eyes wide, wiping drool from his chin. I am sorry, master. I was guarding. I check the bales. They are wrapped in layers of felt and bound with hemp ropes. I run my hand over the seals. The clay impressions are unbroken. Good. We have work to do before the buyers arrive. I point to the 3 bales of raw silk. These need to be opened and aired. The dampness in this stone box will rot the fibers if we are not careful. And bring the scales. Batu scurries off to fetch the weighing equipment. take a moment to inspect the silk myself. I pull a small knife from my sash and carefully slit the stitching on the corner of the first bale. I reach in and pull out a hank of the fiber. It is creamy white, lustrous even in the dim light of the stable. It feels cool and liquid in my hand, catching on the rough skin of my fingertips. This is good silk from the mulberry groves of Khorasan. It has traveled 2,000 miles to get here. I hear the heavy iron hinges of the main Caravanserai gates groan. A shaft of brilliant, unfiltered sunlight cuts across the dusty courtyard like a physical blade. The dust motes dance in the beam, swirling in chaotic patterns. The day has officially begun. Badu returns with the balance scales. The beam is made of iron, the pans of battered copper. We set it up on a hook in the ceiling of the archway. I need to verify the weight. The local excise officers use the Samarkand batman as their unit of weight, which is different from the Tabriz mond I used when I bought it. If I do not calculate the conversion perfectly, I will be cheated. We begin the labor. It is heavy physical work. I grab the corner of a bale, grunting as I heave it onto the scale. It weighs as much as a grown man. The ropes dig into my palms. I slide the counterweight along the arm of the scale, squinting at the notches carved into the iron. 42 batman, I mutter. I take a small wax tablet from my sash and use a bronze stylus to scratch the number into the surface. We work for an hour, shifting the inventory. My heavy coat becomes a burden. I take it off and fold it neatly on a clean crate. I am sweating now, the wool of my tunic damp against my back. The smell of the Caravanserai has changed. The morning chill is gone, replaced by the rising heat of bodies and the sun baking the brick walls. The smell of dung is now mixed with the aroma of roasting kebabs from the street vendors setting up outside the gates, and the sharp, acrid scent of donkey sweat. A shadow falls across the entrance of my alcove. I look up, shielding my eyes against the glare of the courtyard. It is a broker. I know the type. He wears a turban of fine muslin, too white for a man who does honest work, and his hands are soft. He fingers the edge of his silk sash as he looks at my bales. "Peace be upon you, merchant," he says. His voice is oily, practiced. "And upon you," I reply, not stopping my work. I am wiping dust from the indigo crates. "You have silk," he states, not asking. "Khorasani." I nod. First pull. White as milk, strong as iron. He steps closer, reaching out to touch the sample I left exposed. He rubs the fibers between his thumb and forefinger, his face blank. "The market is flooded with silk this week," he says. "A caravan from the east arrived yesterday. Prices are soft." I laugh a short, sharp bark. That caravan carried low-grade refuse, full of knots and yellowing. This is premium. If you are looking for cheap cloth to line a donkey saddle, go to the lower market. If you want silk for the emir's court, you stay here. He smiles, showing teeth that are slightly too yellow. I have a buyer looking for 10 bales, but he will not pay the summer prices. It is autumn. The passes will close soon. You want to sell before you are stuck here for the winter. Yes. He is trying to squeeze me. He knows that staying the winter in Samarkand costs a fortune in lodging and food. He knows I need to turn this silver around to buy spices for the return trip. I stop wiping the crate and look him in the eye. I am in no hurry. My silk does not rot, but your buyer's patience might. Make an offer, I say, but do not insult me. I have not ridden through sandstorms and fought off bandits to give this away for the price of wool. He names a price. It is low, offensively low. I shake my head and turn back to Badu. Pack it up, boy. This man is a comedian, not a buyer. Wait, the broker says. I pause. The dance has begun. This is the real work. The lifting of bales is just exercise. This is the warfare of the road. We haggle for 20 minutes. We argue over the quality, the weight, the exchange rate of silver dinars versus the local copper fulus. We invoke God. We swear on our mothers' graves. We insult each other's ancestors, and we praise each other's wisdom. It is a performance, and we both know the steps. Finally, we reach a number. It is fair. Not a fortune, but a profit. I will bring the weighing master and the silver within the hour, he says, bowing slightly. I nod. I will be here. As he leaves, I feel the tension drain from my shoulders, replaced by a dull throb in my lower back. I lean against the stone wall, taking a deep breath. The air is full of dust, but it smells like victory. Badu looks at me, grinning. Did we do well, master? I wipe sweat from my forehead with the sleeve of my tunic. We survive, Badu. We survive. But the mourning is not over. I have sold the silk, but I still have the indigo. And then I must go into the city proper. I need to visit the paper mills near the river. I have a commission to buy 50 quires of the famous Samarkand paper for a scholar in Herat. I step out of the alcove and look up at the sun. It is climbing higher, turning the sky a hard, brilliant azure. The turquoise tiles on the dome of the mosque, visible over the Caravanserai wall, are blazing with light. I put my heavy coat back on, despite the heat. In the city, a man without a coat looks like a servant. I adjust my turban, checking the reflection in a bucket of water. I look tired, but I look prosperous. I tap my sash, feeling the hard reassurance of my knife and my seal. I step into the flow of the crowd, merging with the stream of humanity. A porter rushes past me with a crate of chickens on his back, feathers flying. A dervish in patched rags sings a prayer, holding out a begging bowl. A guard in chainmail pushes through the throng, shouting for way. I am a drop in the river. I am a merchant of the Silk Road, and the day is just beginning. The sun stands vertical above Samarkand, a blinding white rivet driven into the center of the blue sky. There are no shadows left in the courtyard of the Caravanserai, save for the slivers of darkness hugging the base of the brick arches. The heat is not merely a temperature. It is a physical weight, a heavy woolen blanket pressed against the skin that smells of baked clay and dry animal dung. My work has moved from the cool inventory of the morning to the violent theater of trade. I stand by the western arcade, my station claimed by the spreading of a woven Kalim rug upon the dust. My knees ache from the hard ground, despite the wool beneath them. In front of me sit the 3 bales of raw silk I brought from the valleys of Fergana. They are my livelihood and my burden. I have unbundled one to show the quality. The skeins look like spun moonlight against the dirty earth. This is the paradox of my life. I spend my days guarding things of exquisite beauty while covered in the grime of the road. A potential buyer approaches. He is a local dyer, a man with skin stained permanently dark by walnut husks and indigo. His hands look like bruised fruit. He squats opposite me, his knees cracking audibly. He does not speak at first. In this station of life, words are the final tool, used only when silence has finished its assessment. He reaches out. I watch his rough, stained fingers slide into the delicate skein of raw silk. He rubs the fibers against his thumb, listening for the scroop, the specific, crisp rustle that denotes high Saracen content and proper spinning. If the silk is too dry, it breaks. If it is too damp, it rots. He brings the skein to his nose, inhaling deeply to check for the sour scent of mold that can hide inside a tightly packed bale. 70 dinars per mond, I say. My voice is flat, uninterested. He laughs, a dry, barking sound. He drops the silk as if it has bitten him. He offers 40. Now the labor begins. It is not the labor of lifting stone or plowing earth, but a combat of wills that drains the spirit faster than a day's march. We argue over the consistency of the thread. We argue over the taxes the emir demands at the city gates. We argue over the banditry near the Oxus River, as if I can control the whims of thieves. To prove the weight, I bring out my balance scale. It is a simple beam of polished ash wood, suspended by a cord of braided horsehair. I lift the bronze weights from their velvet-lined box. Each weight is a small octagon, stamped with the seal of the market inspector. The metal is hot to the touch, baking in the sun. I place the silk on one brass pan, the weights on the other. The chains rattle, a metallic shivering sound that cuts through the drone of the bazaar. We watch the needle of the scale. It wavers, dances, and settles level. The truth of the weight is the only thing we do not argue over. We settle on 58 dinars. The transaction changes the nature of the air between us. The tension evaporates, replaced by the bureaucratic ritual of completion. I pull my ledger from my sash. It is a long, narrow book bound in goat leather. The paper inside is thick, creamy Samarkand paper, the very best in the world, polished with an agate stone until it shines. I take my reed pen, the callum, from its brass case. I dip it into the inkwell tied to my belt. The ink is a mixture of soot, gum arabic, and water, thick and black. The reed scratches against the polished paper. I write the date, the buyer's name, the weight, and the price. The script flows from right to left. The curves of the letters connecting the reality of the silk to the permanence of history. My hand shakes slightly from hunger and the caffeine of the morning tea wearing off, but the ink holds the line. The coins change hands. Silver dirhams, worn smooth by 1,000 thumbs. I bite the edge of one, a habit born of caution, tasting the metallic tang of silver rather than the dull lead of a counterfeit. The taste is sharp, electric. I count them 3 times. The sound of silver clinking against silver is the heartbeat of the city. By the time the dyer leaves, hoisting the bales onto the back of a waiting donkey, my tunic is stuck to my back. The sweat trickles down my ribs, itching under the linen. The courtyard is a cacophony. A camel brays, a guttural, gargling roar that sounds like a man drowning. Smiths are hammering copper pots in the crafting corner, a rhythmic, ringing assault. The air is thick with dust kicked up by hooves, swirling in the shafts of sunlight like suspended gold. It is time for the midday meal. The sun has passed its zenith, and the intense labor of the morning trade gives way to the biological necessity of sustenance. I leave my assistant, a young nephew with eyes that still widen at the sight of the city, to guard the remaining goods. I walk toward the Chaykhana, the tea house nestled in the shaded northern corner of the Caravanserai. The drop in temperature as I step under the brick archway is shocking, a sudden grace. The air here smells of charcoal smoke, roasting meat, and wet clay. Men are sitting on raised wooden platforms, legs crossed, shoes left in chaotic piles on the ground below. I find a space on a platform, occupied by 2 other merchants I know by sight. One is a dealer in rhubarb and musk from the Tibetan mountains. The other sells glass beads from the Levant. We nod. There is a brotherhood here, a fraternity of the road. We are all men who sleep lightly and calculate constantly. I wash my hands in a copper basin provided by the tea house boy. The water is tepid, but feels cleansing as I scrub the dust of the silk bales from my skin. I wipe them on a communal cloth that smells of wood smoke. The food arrives on a large, round copper tray, tinned on the inside to prevent poisoning. Today it is Sherpa, a rich, fatty mutton stew. The broth is yellow, with saffron and shimmering, with pools of sheep fat. Chunks of meat on the bone rise like islands from the liquid, alongside boiled turnips and carrots that have absorbed the savory essence of the lamb. Beside the bowl sits a stack of naan, the round flatbread of the city. It is thick at the rim and thin in the center, stamped with intricate floral patterns by the baker's tool. It is still warm, radiating a yeast scent that triggers a painful cramp of hunger in my stomach. We eat in silence at first. This is serious business. I tear a piece of the bread, feeling the resistance of the crust and the soft, airy crumb of the interior. I use the bread as a scoop, dipping it into the hot broth. The first bite burns my tongue, but I welcome it. The taste is overwhelming, the gamey richness of the mutton, the earthiness of the turnip, the sharp spike of black pepper. I use my right hand only, keeping the left resting on my knee. I fish out a bone, holding it by the end, and gnaw the meat. It is tender, falling away in strings. The fat coats my lips, a protective balm against the dry air. We slurp the broth loudly. To eat quietly would imply the food lacks flavor. The tea boy brings a ceramic pot of green tea. It is not the dark, bitter brick tea of the steppes, but delicate leaf tea brought from the magnificent empire to the east. He pours it into small, handleless bowls. He pours from high up, a long, steaming stream that aerates the tea and cools it slightly before it hits the porcelain. I drink. The tea cuts through the grease of the mutton. It is astringent and clean. Paradoxically, the hot liquid makes me sweat more, which cools the skin as the breeze drifts through the archway. As the meal settles, heavy and warm in our bellies, the silence breaks. We lean back against the bolsters. This is the time for information, a commodity as valuable as the silk I sold. The musk merchant speaks first. He has a voice like grinding stones. He tells us that the pass through the Pamirs is blocked by early snow, or perhaps a landslide. He describes the loss of 3 mules to the cold. I listen intently. If the eastern passes are closed, the price of Chinese goods in the bazaar will double by tomorrow. I make a mental note to check the price of rhubarb in the afternoon. The glass merchant, a man with a beard trimmed in the Western style, speaks of politics. He lowers his voice. He talks of the soldiers we saw at the gate. He mentions that the Chagatai Khan's grip is weakening, that local emirs are hoarding grain. He has heard rumors of a new warlord rising in the south, a man who moves armies like chess pieces. We digest this news along with the mutton. Uncertainty is the soil in which we plant our fortunes. If war comes, we must sell quickly and move. If peace holds, we can stockpile. I watch the activity in the courtyard from our shaded perch. A string of Bactrian camels is being loaded. The animals are shedding their winter coats, great clumps of wool hanging from their flanks. They protest the loading, spitting green bile and snapping at the handlers. The drivers use thick wooden staves to beat the animals into submission. The sound of wood striking bone and the wet slap of the camel's feet on the stones is the rhythm of the afternoon. My eyes feel heavy. The combination of the heat, the heavy meal, and the release of the morning's tension creates a narcotic effect. This is the siesta, the midday lull. Even the flies seem to move slower, buzzing lazily around the rim of the tea bowls. But I cannot sleep yet. There is maintenance to be done. I bid farewell to my companions, sliding my feet back into my leather boots. The leather is soft, molded to the shape of my foot, but the soles are thin. I step out into the glare, squinting against the assault of the light. I walk to the stables beneath the eastern wall. The smell here is intense: ammonia, wet straw, and horse sweat. My 2 horses are tethered there. They are my lifeline. Without them, I am just a man standing in the dirt. With them, I am a merchant of the Silk Road. I inspect them with the same scrutiny I applied to the silk. I run my hand down the foreleg of the gray mare. The muscle is hard, but I feel for heat in the tendon. A lame horse is a death sentence for my profits. She shifts her weight, blowing warm air against my neck. I check her hooves, lifting the foot to ensure no stones are wedged in the frog, the soft, triangular center of the hoof. I pay the stable master for fodder. He is a toothless old man who sleeps on a pile of hay. I watch him measure out the barley. I do not trust him to give full measure if I am not watching. The grain rattles into the wooden trough. I wait until the horses begin to eat, the crunching sound satisfying and rhythmic. Leaving the stables, I head back to my pile of goods. The sun has moved, angling slightly to the west, changing the shadows from puddles to long fingers. My nephew is sitting cross-legged, fighting sleep. I kick his boot gently. He jumps, straightening his turban. We have work to do before the evening trade begins. The dust of the market has settled on the remaining bales. Presentation is everything. I take a brush made of stiff horsehair and begin to sweep the inventory. I clean the leather cases of the musk pods. I wipe down the wooden boxes of spices. I pick up a block of tea, a brick compressed so hard it looks like black stone. It smells of earth and rain. I check the seal stamped into it. It is intact. A beggar wanders past, a Sufi dervish with a patchwork cloak and a begging bowl made from a sea coconut, a strange object from an ocean I have never seen. He chants the names of God, a low, hypnotic hum. I reach into my sash and drop a small copper coin into his bowl. It is not solely charity, it is insurance. Luck is a tangible force on the road, and I cannot afford to be without it. The heat begins to break, just a fraction. The color of the light shifts from blinding white to a warmer, golden hue. The city outside, the walls, is waking up from its midday stupor. I can hear the call to prayer beginning, not from one minaret, but rippling across the city. First the great mosque near the center, then the smaller neighborhood mosques, then the distant ones near the gates. The sound is a complex harmony of human voices, rising and falling, overlapping. Allahu Akbar. It echoes off the brick walls of the Caravanserai. I stop my work. I unroll a small prayer rug over the dust I have been sitting in. I perform the dry ablution, rubbing my hands on a clean stone, as water is precious and the fountain is crowded. I face west toward Mecca. The physical sensation of prayer is a relief. The stretching of the back, the pressing of the forehead to the ground. It is a moment to stop calculating, to stop weighing, to stop worrying about the banditry on the road or the price of silk. For a few minutes, I am not a merchant. I am a speck of dust in the eye of the Almighty. When I rise, the world has shifted. The shadows are long now. The frantic energy of the morning is gone, replaced by a more deliberate, social atmosphere. The serious wholesale trading is done. The evening is for retail, for smaller items, for socializing, and for preparing for the night. I sit back on my rug. I take a knife and slice a melon we bought earlier. The rind splits with a sharp crack. The flesh inside is pale green and weeping with juice. The smell is incredibly sweet, floral, and heavy. I hand a slice to my nephew. We eat the melon, letting the juice run down our chins, sticky and cool. We watch the courtyard fill with new arrivals, a caravan from India, dusty and exhausted. Their elephants looking like gray boulders moving through the gate. The noise swells again, but it is different now. It is the sound of arrival, of rest, of the day's journey ending. I wipe my hands on the grass of the melon rind. My belly is full, my ledger shows a profit, and my animals are fed. The midday peak has passed. I have survived the heat and the haggling. Now I wait for the cool of the evening and the stories that will come with the firelight. The taste of the melon lingers in my mouth, sweet as life itself. The sun has moved past the zenith, but the heat inside the Caravanserai courtyard has not broken. It has merely settled, heavy and motionless, like a thick wool blanket dropped over the city of Samarkand. I am sitting cross-legged on the faded prayer rug, spread out within the arched alcove of my rented bay. The stone walls behind me, thick and ancient, offer a small mercy of coolness. but the air in front of me shimmers. This is the long drag of the afternoon, the time between the midday meal and the evening prayer, when the world seems to hold its breath, waiting for the mercy of the sunset. My lower back aches, a dull, throbbing knot just above the hip bone. It is the specific pain of the merchant, born not from heavy lifting, but from endless hours of sitting on hard floors, leaning forward to inspect goods, and bowing slightly to potential buyers. I shift my weight, uncrossing my legs and stretching them out beneath the low wooden table, listening to the dry pop of my knee joints. The dust is the true ruler of this hour. In the morning, the water carriers sprinkle the courtyard to keep it down. But by now, the moisture has long evaporated. The dust hangs in the shafts of sunlight that cut through the bamboo shading mats. It coats the back of my throat, tasting of dry earth and pulverized donkey dung. I reach for the clay jug at my side. The water inside is tepid, but I hold the liquid in my mouth for a moment to rinse away the grit before swallowing. Business has slowed. The frantic energy of the morning market has dissolved into lethargy. A few local buyers still wander the perimeter, moving slowly from shade to shade. But serious deals are rarely struck in this heat. Now is the time for the small nuisances, the hagglers who have no money but plenty of time. A man approaches my alcove. He is a local, dressed in a tunic of rough, unbleached cotton that has seen too many washes. He eyes the small selection of goods I have left on display. A few bolts of mid-grade silk and 3 small brass oil lamps from Damascus. He picks up one of the lamps. I watch his hands. They are calloused, the fingernails rimmed with black dirt. He turns the lamp over, tapping the base with a knuckle. The sound is hollow and metallic. He asks the price, though I know he will not buy. I tell him 5 silver dirhams. He laughs a dry, raspy sound and offers 2. I do not even blink. I merely shake my head and look away, toward the center of the courtyard, where a line of camels is being watered. This is the dance of the board. He feigns insult. I feign indifference. He puts the lamp down, dragging it slightly across the wood of the table, so it makes a grating scratch, and walks away. I pick up the lamp and wipe the dust from it with a rag. The brass is hot to the touch. My eyes feel heavy, the eyelids scratching against the surface of my eyes. The temptation to close them, to lean back against the cool stone and drift into sleep, is a physical pull, stronger than hunger. But I cannot sleep. To sleep is to leave the inventory unguarded. Even here, within the walls of the Caravanserai, trust is a commodity measured by line of sight. I decide to busy myself with the ledger. I pull the leather-bound book from my satchel. The leather is cracked at the spine, stained dark with the oil of my hands. I open it to the current page. The paper is thick, cream-colored Samarkand paper, the very best in the world. My ink pot is drying out, the black sludge thickening at the bottom. I add a few drops of water and stir it with the tip of my reed pen. I begin to tally the morning's expenses. Fodder for the animals, the bribe paid to the gate guard, the cost of the flatbread and mutton we ate at midday. The numbers blur slightly. I have to blink hard to bring them back into focus. 112 dirhams out, 40 dirhams in from the sale of the indigo blocks. We are heavy on stock, light on coin. It is a precarious balance that makes my stomach tighten, even through the fatigue. A shadow falls across my table. I look up, shielding my eyes against the glare. It is the paper merchant, Ismail. We had an appointment. I feel a spike of adrenaline cut through the drowsiness. This is the task I have been dreading and anticipating all day. Ismail is a round man, his face shining with sweat, his beard dyed with henna to hide the gray. He signals to his porters, two lean boys who carry a heavy wooden crate between them. They set it down on the edge of my platform with a heavy thud. This is the critical moment. I am looking to purchase 500 sheets of polished paper to take west to Aleppo. The profit margin on Samarkand paper is immense if the quality is perfect. If it is flawed, I will not even be able to trade it for lentils. I stand up, my knees protesting the movement. I step down from the platform to the dusty ground to meet the crate. Ismail is smiling, wiping his forehead with a sleeve. He praises the heat, praises God, praises my health. I nod, cutting through the pleasantries. I ask to see the goods. One of the porters pries the lid off the crate with a small iron crowbar. The wood groans and splinters slightly. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, are the stacks. I undo the cloth. The smell hits me immediately, a scent of starch, clean river water, and the faint, sour tang of the fermentation process. It is a good smell. I lift the top sheet. It is large, the size of a man's torso. I hold it up to the sun. The light passes through it evenly. There are no clumps of fiber, no thick spots. It is a uniform, glowing cloud. This is good, but the eyes can be deceived, the fingers cannot. I rub the surface of the paper between my thumb and forefinger. It must be polished to a glass-like finish, so the scribe's reed pen will glide without catching, so the ink will sit on the surface and not bleed into the fibers. The first sheet is perfect, smooth as the inner thigh of a horse. I set it aside and dig deeper. Merchants like Ismail are clever. They put the best sheets on top. I count down 20 sheets and pull one from the middle. I hold it up. Here is the flaw. A tiny, almost invisible hair is trapped in the pulp. A goat hair, perhaps. If a pen hits that, The ink will splatter, a royal decree ruined by a goat hair. I show it to Ismail. He shrugs, dismissing it as a singularity, a ghost. I dig deeper. I pull a sheet from the bottom third. The corner is dog-eared, the sizing brittle. It crackles when I flex it. This paper was dried too fast in the hot sun. It will snap if folded. I look at Ismail. The smile has not left his face, but his eyes have hardened. He knows that I know. We begin the dance. This is not the lazy haggling of the lamp buyer. This is combat. I tell him the bottom third is refuse. He swears on his mother's grave that it is the same batch. I tell him I will pay for the top 2/3, but at a 20% discount for the labor of sorting it. He feigns outrage, threatening to have his boys carry it back to the workshop. My head pounds. The heat is relentless. Sweat trickles down my spine, soaking the linen of my tunic. I want to sit down. I want to drink cool water, but I stand my ground. I pick up the brittle sheet and snap it near his ear. The sound is like a dry twig breaking. The sound hangs in the air. He sighs, the air deflating from him. He signals a compromise with a tilt of his head. We agree on a price that is fair, though he acts as if I have robbed him. We shake hands. His palm is wet and hot. I watch as the porters move the crate into the back of my alcove, behind the curtain where my sleeping pallet lies. I count out the silver dirhams from my belt pouch. The coins are heavy, warm metal. I place them in his hand, counting aloud. 100, 110. When he leaves, the fatigue crashes back down on me with double the weight. The adrenaline fades, leaving my limbs feeling like lead. I sit back down on the rug, exhaling a long breath that seems to empty my lungs completely. The afternoon is shifting. The light is changing color. The harsh, bleaching white of midday is softening into a deep, hazy gold. The shadows of the courtyard pillars are stretching out, long and thin, reaching toward the east. The air is still hot, but the stinging intensity is gone. Around the Caravanserai, the atmosphere transforms. The silence of the nap is breaking. I hear the groaning of camels as they are forced to stand. The guttural commands of the drivers echo off the brick walls. A donkey brays, a jagged, sawing noise that grates on the ears. The smell of cooking fires begins to drift through the open bays. It is the smell of dried dung burning, a thick, acrid smoke mixed with the aroma of roasting onions and cumin. My stomach growls, a sudden, sharp reminder that I have not eaten since noon. I have one more task before I can rest. I must secure the inventory for the night. I stand up again, moving slower this time. I begin the ritual of packing. The brass lamps are wrapped individually in scraps of wool and placed in a small cedar chest. The bolts of silk are rolled tight and stood upright in a tall leather tube. Every movement is deliberate. To rush is to break something. To rush is to lose count. I check the locks on the heavy chests. They are iron padlocks, bought in Herat. I take the key from around my neck and test each one. The mechanism clicks shut with a satisfying solidity. This is the only security I have. Outside my bay, the courtyard is filling with movement. A new caravan has just arrived from the east, likely from Kashgar. The men look exhausted, their faces caked in gray dust, so thick they look like statues. Their camels are foaming at the mouth, their humps shrunken and flopping to the side. I watch them with a mixture of pity and relief. Pity because I know the ache in their bones. Relief because today, that is not me. I am stationary. I have a roof. My neighbor, a rug merchant named Faruk from Khorasan, steps out of his alcove. He stretches, his arms reaching high, his spine cracking. He looks at me and nods. We are not friends, exactly. We are competitors in a broad sense, though our goods differ. But at this hour, at the end of the long drag, we are brothers in fatigue. He walks over to the edge of my platform. He holds a small silver bowl of dried apricots. He offers me one. I take the fruit. It is chewy and sweet, the sugar rushing into my blood. He asks if I sold the lamps. I tell him no, but I secured the paper. He nods appreciatively. He knows the value of paper. He tells me that the new caravan brings news of bandits on the road south of Bukhara. This is the social dynamic of the evening, the exchange of intelligence. We lower our voices. We talk of safety, of road taxes, of the mood of the local governor. This information is as valuable as the silk in my chests. If the road to Bukhara is unsafe, we must wait or hire more guards. The conversation is slow, punctuated by long pauses where we just watch the chaos of the unloading caravan. We watch a camel refuse to kneel, spitting green bile at its handler. We watch a crate burst open, spilling apples into the dust, and the scramble of stable boys to steal them. It is a moment of shared existence. We are two men far from home, bound by the rhythm of profit and loss, survival and exhaustion. The sun dips below the western wall of the Caravanserai. The courtyard is plunged into sudden shadow, though the sky above is still a brilliant, piercing blue. The temperature drops noticeably, a cool breeze sweeping in to chase away the stagnant heat. The call to prayer will sound soon. I can feel the anticipation of it in the air. The water carriers are filling the ablution troughs. Men are rolling down their sleeves and adjusting their turbans. I turn back to my alcove. I sweep the dust from the rug with a small broom made of stiff twigs. I straighten the cushion where I will sit to eat. The work is done. the day has been survived. The ledger is balanced, or close enough. I sit down, leaning my back against the cool stone wall. My hands are stained with ink and dust. My feet throb, but as the first cry of the muezzin drifts over the city walls, echoing distantly before being picked up by the mosque next door, I feel a profound sense of peace. The long drag is over. The night belongs to me. The light does not fade in Samarkand. It retreats, surrendering the sky to a bruised and purple twilight that hangs heavy over the blue tiled domes of the city. The air changes instantly. The dry, dusty heat of the afternoon evaporates, replaced by a sharp chill that descends from the distant Pamir Mountains. It is the time of day when the stone walls of the Caravanserai begin to radiate the warmth they have hoarded since noon, offering a faint comfort against the coming cold. I stand near the entrance of the courtyard, watching the great timber gates swing shut. They move with a groan of iron hinges, a sound that vibrates through the soles of my boots. 4 guards, men with thick arms and faces weathered like old leather, push the beams into place. The final thud of the locking bar dropping into its cradle is the definitive end of the trading day. We are sealed in. The city outside the beggars, the chaotic markets, the Timurid patrols is gone. Inside, we are a temporary village of travelers, united by the need for walls and water. My labor is not yet finished. A merchant who tends to his own comfort before his beast is a merchant who will die in the desert. I make my way through the press of bodies and livestock to the section of the courtyard where I have tethered my camels. The air here is thick, a pungent soup of animal sweat, dry dung, and the acrid ammonia of urine. To a stranger, it might be repulsive, but to me, it is the smell of capital, the smell of survival. My lead camel, the old male with the scarred left knee, watches me approach. He chews his cud with a rhythmic, side-to-side motion of his jaw, his long eyelashes blinking slowly. I pat his neck, the coarse hair rough against my palm, dusted with the grit of the road. I must unload him. Even here, in the safety of the Caravanserai, I trust no one completely with the bales. I untie the ropes. The knots are stiff, the hemp fibers swollen with the day's sweat and dust. My fingers ache. The joints are swollen, the skin around my nails cracked and stained with dirt. I pull the heavy bales of raw silk from the animal's flanks. They are wrapped in oilcloth to protect against damp and moths, and they land on the beaten earth with a dull, heavy thump. I drag them immediately to the raised stone niche, the iwan that I have rented for the night. It is nothing more than an arched recess in the wall, raised 3 feet off the ground to keep us above the muck of the stables. But it is my fortress for the night. I return to the camel. I inspect the saddle pad. I run my hand underneath the felt. checking for burrs or folds that could rub the skin raw. A sore on a camel's back can fester in 2 days, grounding a caravan, and eating into profits with every hour of delay. His skin is hot and damp, but smooth. I lift a bucket of water from the trough. The water is murky, floating with bits of straw, but it is cool. He drinks with long, slurping draughts, his throat convulsing as the water slides down his long neck. I pour a measure of barley into his nose bag, expensive fodder here in the city, costing me 3 silver dirhams, but necessary. He must have strength for the pass through the mountains in 3 days. Only when the animals are fed and settled do I attend to the spiritual. The call to prayer, the Maghrib, drifts over the high walls. It is a polyphonic chorus. The voices of muezzins from a dozen minarets across Samarkand, overlapping in the darkening air. I wash at the central fountain. The water is shockingly cold. I scrub the road dust from my forearms, watching the brown slurry run off my elbows. I rinse my mouth, spitting out the grit of the marketplace. The ritual is cleansing, not just for the soul, but for the body that has been battered by the elements. I kneel on my small prayer rug, the wool worn thin where my knees and forehead touch. Around me, 100 other men are doing the same: Persians, Turks, Arabs, even a few Chinese converts. For a moment, the haggling and the greed stop, replaced by the collective murmur of submission. Rising from prayer, the hunger hits me. It is a hollow, cramping sensation in the center of my stomach. The courtyard is now dotted with fires. The smoke of burning dung and charcoal creates a low-hanging haze that stings the eyes. I do not cook tonight. I am too tired to scour a pot. Instead, I walk to the corner of the courtyard, where the Caravanserai cook has set up his large iron cauldron. The smell is intoxicating. It is plov, the heart of this region's cuisine. The cook, a massive man with a grease-stained apron, uses a ladle the size of a shovel to turn the rice. It is yellowed with saffron and glistening with sheep tail fat. Chunks of mutton, carrots boiled down to a sweet softness, and whole bulbs of garlic tumble through the grain. I pay him, and he piles a mound of the steaming mixture into my wooden bowl. He slaps a round of naan bread on top, fresh from the clay oven, its surface blistered and charred in spots. I carry the food back to my niche. I am joined by my neighbor for the night, a rug merchant from Bukhara named Hassan. We sit cross-legged on the felt mats, the bowl placed between us. We eat with our right hands. The rice is hot, coating my fingers in a layer of savory grease. The mutton falls apart at the touch, rich and gamey. We use pieces of the naan to scoop up the rice, saying little at first. The act of eating is serious business after a day of labor. The sheep fat lies heavy and warm in the stomach, a necessary fuel against the dropping temperature. The tax collector at the iron gate is taking a full tenth, Hassan says quietly, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. He claims it is a new decree from the emir. I nod, tearing a piece of garlic bread. He took a tenth from me as well, and he eyed my indigo as if he wanted to confiscate it entirely. The roads are safer under Timur, but the tolls are becoming a banditry of their own. We speak of the road. This is the currency of our evening. We trade information just as we trade goods. We talk of the water wells on the southern route, which ones are dry, which ones are sweet. We talk of the price of turquoise in Nishapur and the shortage of paper in Herat. Hassan warns me of a sickness in the horses seen coming from the north, a fever that bloats the belly. I file this away. I will keep my camels away from the horse lines tomorrow. A boy comes by selling tea. I wave him over. He pours from a brass ewer into small ceramic bowls. The tea is green, bitter, and scalding hot. I hold the bowl with both hands, letting the heat seep into my calloused palms. We sip the tea through cubes of hard sugar held between our teeth, sweetening the liquid as it passes. The courtyard is loud now. The animals are settling, but the men are awake. In the corner, a group of caravan drivers are gambling with dice made of sheep knuckle bones. Their shouts of victory and curses of loss echo off the stone walls. Someone is playing a rubab, the stringed instrument plucking out a melancholic tune that sounds like the wind over the steppe. It is a song of longing, familiar to all of us who spend our lives moving between homes we rarely see. I retreat to the back of my niche to perform the final work of the day, the accounting. I pull my ledger from the leather satchel I wear next to my skin. It is a small book bound in goat skin. I take out my ink case and a reed pen. The light is dim, provided only by a small oil lamp with a floating wick. The flame gutters in the draft. I inspect the paper. It is Samarkand paper, the finest in the world, smooth as silk and heavy in the hand. I dip the pen and make my marks. Item, 6 bales of raw silk, secure. Item, 2 sacks of indigo, secure. Expense, 3 dirhams for fodder. Expense, 2 dirhams for the cook. Expense, 1 dirham for the gate guard, a bribe to ensure my bales were not accidentally dropped during inspection. I calculate the profit in my head. If I can sell the silk in the morning to the agents of the Genoese traders, I will have doubled my investment from the purchase in cotton. If they haggle low, or if the market is flooded, I may only break even. The ink shines wetly in the lamplight before drying to a dull black. I blow on the page, the breath hissing softly. I close the book and wrap it back in the leather cloth, tucking it deep inside my sash. It is safer on my body than in any lockbox. Now, the maintenance of the body. I unwrap the long sash from my waist. It is 5 yards of cotton, wound tight to support the back during the lifting of heavy loads. As I unspool it, my spine feels a sudden, aching release, as if the vertebrae are settling back into a natural posture. The relief is so sharp, it is almost painful. I rub the muscles of my lower back. They are hard as wood. I pull off my boots. This is the greatest pleasure of the day. The leather has been shrinking around my feet since sunrise. I pry them off, groaning as the blood rushes back into my crushed toes. My socks are wool, damp with sweat and matted. I peel them off and hang them near the lamp to dry. If they are wet in the morning, they will cause blisters. I inspect my feet in the dim light. The callus on my left heel is cracking. I take a small tin of tallow from my pack and rub the grease into the fissure. It stings, then soothes. I do not undress fully. It is too cold, and modesty forbids it in this semi-public space. I remove my heavy outer coat, the chapin, which is quilted and thick with cotton batting. I shake it out vigorously outside the niche. Dust flies from it like smoke. I check the seams for lice. I find one, a small dark speck moving against the stitching. I crush it between my thumbnails with a sharp snap. It is a constant battle. I lay the coat down on the felt mat to serve as my mattress. The noise of the Caravanserai is changing. The gambling is dying down. The music has stopped. The dominant sounds are now the coughing of men, the shifting of animals, and the deep, resonant snoring that echoes from the dozens of niches around the courtyard. A donkey brays, a harsh, sawing sound that rips through the night, followed by the angry shout of a man telling it to be silent. I prepare my bed. I have a thick woolen blanket, woven with the red and black patterns of the Turkmen tribes. It smells of wood smoke and old lanolin. I wrap myself in it, pulling it up to my chin. I position my saddlebags under my head as a pillow. They are hard and lumpy, filled with spare tackle and my cooking pot. But I position them so the softest part is under my neck. This also ensures that if anyone tries to steal my bags in the night, the movement will wake me. I lie on my side, facing the opening of the niche. I can see the square of the sky above the courtyard. The moon has risen, bathing the opposite wall in a pale, ghostly light. The stars are brilliant and hard, like diamonds scattered on black velvet. They are the same stars I used to navigate the desert 3 nights ago. But here, framed by the walls, they seem distant, disconnected from the earth. My body is heavy, sinking into the thin felt mat. The stone beneath is unyielding, but after weeks on the road, I could sleep on broken pottery. I let my mind drift. I think of the morning. I must wake before the sun. I need to find the broker named Yusuf. He promised me a good price for the indigo. I need to restock the supply of dried apricots. I need to check the camel's left hoof again. The thoughts begin to fragment. The worry about the tax collector blends with the image of the steam rising from the plove. The sound of the guard pacing the ramparts above the rhythmic scuff of leather on stone becomes a lullaby. The smell of the camel dung, the smoke, and the dust is no longer noticeable. It is just the air. I pull the rough wool of the blanket over my ear to muffle the snoring of the merchant in the next niche. I curl my legs up for warmth. The tension in my shoulders finally dissolves. The stone walls of the Caravanserai, formidable and locking us in, now feel like an embrace. I am safe. My goods are safe. The day is done. I close my eyes, and the darkness takes me instantly, dragging me down into a dreamless, heavy sleep, the deep slumber of a man who has walked the earth and survived another day to trade again.